It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome to the Jill on Money show. We are so happy you are joining us. Happy New Year. I know last weekend was a new year, but this weekend feels like the first real weekend of the new year. I am still in a little bit of a carb coma, and I can blame my excellent executive producer, Mark, for some of that because he encouraged it. And I'm back on the wagon. So things are good, feeling good. If you have a financial question, you want to get your year off on the right foot, maybe it's a resolution question, something like that, give us a holler. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. askjill@jillonmoney.com. Now, Mark, I didn't even tell you this because Mark and I tried to take some time off from the rigmarole of our daily podcast, which is great. We love our daily podcast, love this weekend show, but it's a lot of work. So we put a ton of stuff in the can and then we came back and now I'm all rested. I feel good. But Mark, I didn't tell you the story. I thought really important story to tell to the listening audience. I have a colleague at work who I spoke to a few months ago. And this colleague, I'm just going to say them so I don't out the person as a man or a woman. So the colleague basically says that as a household, they make, so married with a few kids, they make, let's call it $150,000 a year. Okay. Live in New Jersey. 3 kids ages, 2 teenagers, one sort of about to start middle school. They got a house. It's worth $500,000. They got a $200,000 outstanding mortgage. This person calls me and starts to ask me questions about college funding. So each of the kids has about $30,000 in either some sort of custodial or UGMA account. And then the parents have about $150,000 that is in a brokerage account with a big wirehouse, expensive mutual funds. And the money in retirement, these are, they're just about 50 years old, maybe a little bit over 50. So the money in retirement, it's about, let's say, $200,000 total in retirement. Then maybe let's call it closer to 300. So there's $300,000 in retirement. There's about $30,000 for each kid. And then there's this $150,000 in cash. And then there's a house with $300,000 of equity. There's only 15 years left on the house. So the first thing that I say is, well, I guess you could probably tap some of the equity in the house and you'd spend down some of the money in your brokerage account. But boy, that would leave you really short for college. So this was back in October. Then on Christmas Eve day, this person calls me, wants to talk to me again. First of all, I'm an idiot. I should have not done this because I was, waiting in line to pick up my meat and going all nuts. It was terrible. I basically said, I was a little bit less generous, not so much with the advice, but with the way I delivered the advice. This person says, you said that I could pay for college. I said, you know what? I said you could. I didn't say that was the best idea for you. And then, Mark, I lost it. I actually said, I don't know who you think you are, but you don't make enough money to pay for even a public college education, which is essentially like $100,000 per kid. I said, you're going to use up all the equity in your house. You're going to spend the money on the kid. Then you're going to use up the money that you have in your brokerage account. And the kids will go to college for whatever, the $25,000 or $30,000 a year, your in-state college tuition, which seems ridiculous to me. And you don't have enough money in retirement. And really what you should be doing is refinancing your house to a 30-year. What you should be doing is taking whatever money you need out just to sort of fix your house up and live a little bit more comfortably. And spend the money that's in the accounts for the kids. And that's that. It was like dead silence. And by the way, Mark, I wasn't nice. Meaning not nice, like I felt like I delivered it in such a tough way. It was like a tough love thing. And that's really not my gig. I don't usually do that. But I felt like that this couple is essentially about to make a huge mistake. And I don't think I brought that up in a way that was smart back in October, I think I was sort of trying to say, well, this is what you want to do. This is how you could do it. Instead of me taking the position, which I often do here on the radio, which is, I don't think you can afford to do this. So parents, here's what I want you to hear. When I say things like this, I'm not trying to pop your children's dreams of a higher education degree. What I'm trying to do is look at you as if you are the patient that walks into the hospital. And here's the triage. The triage is there's only so much I can do about what's going on in your financial life. As a result, I have to take care of the things that are the most important things. So when I looked at this case and I really kind of zipped through it in my head on Christmas Eve, did I say it was Christmas Eve? It was Christmas Eve. And I was getting ready to make my lobster fra diavolo. What I saw was a family that was about to make a pretty disastrous financial decision, and one that would be putting the family at risk. And what is the disastrous decision would be to lever up the house, to use up all of the money that's in cash to pay for school, to then leave the parents with a very subpar retirement outlook. This couple basically said to me, but that's our only goal. And I said, I don't care if that's your only goal. You are basically putting your kids in the position of having to worry about your financial future. And that's not okay. By the way, at age 50 or so, they're putting in, you ready for the amount of money they're putting into retirement, Mark? 6%. That's it. 6% contribution. Do you see where I was going with this? Like, okay, so then I lost it, and then I had to call back and apologize for losing it and being so tough, and had a whole nother conversation where the person was quietly receiving the information. But you know what, Mark? It reminded me of that woman from NYU, Caitlin Zaloom, who talked about how these sort of upper middle class, I mean, I know it sounds crazy, gang, but like if you live in the New York metropolitan area, you make 150 grand a year, you sort of feel like you're upper middle class. They have a nice house, they've got a nice life, they've got money, I get it, but they don't have enough money to pay for the full boat of a state school education. They don't have enough money to spend 100 grand times 3. That may seem awful, but it is the way it is. And so if you keep making these decisions where you put yourselves or your kids at risk by taking on loans or refinancing the house, you're stuck with that decision for the next 2 or 3 decades. All right. So I just had to come clean. I felt bad. I made it right. I can't say it's a good friendship. I mean, I can say I think that the couple appreciated that I called back. I don't think that they're going to take my advice. But, that's why I don't do that for a living anymore, because it used to kill me when that would happen. Anyway, do you have a similar story? Do you want my tough love, Jill? It's not pretty. I like compassionate coach Jill better. Okay, it's Jill on Money. If you have a financial question, just give us a holler. It's Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com, and we'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And if you missed the first segment, you'll have to go back and listen to it online, because I had to come clean about having a tough conversation with somebody. But that said, I'm back. I'm ready to rock and roll. And we want to talk to you, and hopefully you want to come on the air with us. So if so, send us your question, ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com, and tell us that you would like to join us, because it's way more fun when I hear your voices than my own voice. Just let us know you want to come on the air with us. Mark will do the rest. He's so smart. This is why it is beautiful to have someone of his expertise in my life. So today we are going to talk to Patrick. He is in Michigan. Patrick, welcome to Jill on Money. What can we do for you?
Thanks, Jill. So 2020 is the first year that I have been moved into a category at work where instead of a traditional 401k, I'm in our non-qualified plan. So based on level of compensation and all of that, I guess there's a test they run, everybody through at the end of the year for IRS rules. And I'm in a position now where I'm able to contribute greater than the 19.5 maximum for a 401k, but there's a lot of caveats that come with that. What amount can go towards that account? And I'm in the open enrollment period for that for 2021 and just trying to identify whether I'm better served keeping that money there or putting additional money into that non-qualified account, or whether I should look into moving more money over to a brokerage and things like that.
Got it. Okay. So just give us a little bit of a background as to what's going on in your personal life. Like, what's the family look like? How much money have you saved? And what are some of the goals and objectives that you have?
Sure. So my wife and I live here in Michigan with our son who's turning 10. We both work full time. Annual household income is around $200,000. I'm bonus eligible in beginning of second quarter most years, though obviously this year will be a little different. We have about $40,000 in cash in high yield checking and savings, which accounts for maybe 8 to 10 months worth of expenses for us. And then as far as retirement goes, my wife fully funds her 403b through work. I'm looking at about $250,000 in my 401k. We're on a 15-year mortgage with about 14 years remaining, $100,000 balance there. And as far as goals go, I think I'm turning 40 in the new year. And I think longer term, we're looking at having some flexibility, maybe not having to work our kind of standard 9-to-5 jobs like we are now, through to standard retirement age, have some flexibility for consulting work, things like that.
And so for those of you listening, there are these interesting plans that exist that are non-qualified retirement plans, meaning that they don't look like that standard 401k. It is usually that you can either put in a pre or post-tax dollar amount into an extra plan, and that extra plan, there's some rules and regulations around that. The question I have for you is sort of twofold, and that is, you said you've moved into eligibility for this non-qualified plan. What's your idea around what you think the future holds? Do you think you'll stay at this company? Do you think that your income should continue to rise and you'll be able to continue to be part of the non-qualified plan? Or do you think this is a one-time only kind of deal?
No, this will be ongoing for me. So I've been with the company for 20 years. I'm not looking to go anywhere different. And it's at least for us, it's based on our standard salary. So I will continue to be in this particular program, moving forward. Again, it's the idea of what do we do with that extra? Is there benefit to that?
And talk to me about what might happen if you were to leave the company. What happens to the non-qualified plan?
Yeah, so that for us is the kind of the greatest exposure to risk. The way the plan is structured, anything that hasn't been moved annually over to my existing 401k, I receive that entire balance in full in either January or February of the following year. So if I were to leave the organization to go to a different company, if I was to kind of get a little more creative and do some consulting work on the side instead, then I would get a payout all at once, and that would count against my income for whatever year that disbursement occurs in.
Okay. One other question for you. If you stick around there and life is all good there, is there an ability for you to use a Roth 401k option, or do they just have a traditional 401k?
We only have a traditional option.
All right. I am leaning towards doing this. Okay. And I just need to know, what's your cash flow look like in terms of, with you both maxing out right now, how are things going in your household expenses from month to month?
Yeah, we're in good shape. So at this point, I think, we're looking between $4,000 and $5,000 a month in expenses, which leaves us with about $1,500 to $2,000, depending on the month. And that's in excess of the other kind of things that we're funding. So 529 for our son, obviously the 401k, the 403b. So that's excess on top of current investing strategy and household expenses.
I'm leaning towards doing this, and I'll tell you why. I think it's a good opportunity for you. It sounds like you've had a very good career at this place. Sometimes I worry about these plans, either that the company itself shuts it off or that you become at risk, right? But it doesn't sound like you're in that situation. It sounds like actually you're making more money. This is really a pretty good opportunity for you to jam up your retirement contributions, and you can afford to do it. So I don't have a problem with it. The big issue you're likely to face in the future, 100 years from now, when you actually do stop working, is that, look, a lot of your money is going to have tax implications. And I'm not sure there's much to do about that right this second until one of you has a Roth option. I didn't ask you, does your wife have a 403b Roth option?
No, she doesn't.
Okay. I don't know. Sometimes with a 403b, if she's a public servant, you have a 457 option. Is there also a 457 option for your wife?
No, she works for a health system, so just the 403b.
Thank God she does. We need her. The one thing, maybe there's this one opportunity here as I'm looking through, you sent me a lot of your information ahead of time, so I appreciate that. You said you have an IRA rollover, right? There may be an opportunity that if you're using your non-qualified plan, and depending on your tax situation, I'm wondering, while you're still in the 24% tax bracket, maybe you should start converting that old rollover IRA into a Roth. And maybe that's something to consider because, again, you're going to need to be able to control your tax liability down the line. And that's probably the only place where you could do it. So that's the one thing that I would think is worth considering. Your income is going to remain pretty consistent. And who's entitled to the pension? Your wife?
My wife is, yeah. That's from a previous hospital she worked for.
Okay. I mean, I think that's really the only other thing. Is the non-qualified plan a decent plan in terms of investments?
It is, yeah. So for me, I'm about 90-10 split between stock index funds and bond funds. So I've got access to, an index for S&P, an index for total market, that kind of thing.
Patrick, you're a player. 90% stocks. You didn't get freaked out in the spring?
It's the long game, right?
Let me do a few odds and ends. So yes, I think that this is a good plan to use. A couple of odds and ends. You guys have life insurance?
We do, yes.
Okay. Term life insurance?
Term, yes.
Good. And estate planning done? Wills, power of attorney, healthcare proxies?
Yep, all that's done. And we have a trust set up as well.
Very nice. Okay. I think you're in great shape. What's the mortgage interest rate?
We are at 3.375.
All right. So no paying that down early. I think you're in great shape. I think you should rock and roll, keep working, sock as much money away as you can. We'll rerun your retirement projections when you get closer. But if you can do that, you can play around with it. You're going to see you're in very good shape. I can just tell because you guys are saving a ton of money. So I say go for it.
All right. Great. Thank you very much.
All right. Don't forget, if you want to come on the air with us, it's easy. Send an email, ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Or if you're on our website, if you're on the jillonmoney.com website, we've got a contact button. Let us know what the question is and tell us you want to come on the air with us. Mark will do the rest. jillonmoney.com. While you're there, sign up for our free weekly newsletter. It's free. Comes out every week. It's great. Okay. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And if you cannot get enough of us, if this weekend show is not enough for you, I've got a fantastic idea. Why don't you check out our sister broadcast? It is a podcast. We do it daily. Daily. Yeah, 7 days a week. And the easiest way to get information is to just go onto our website, jillonmoney.com. Right there on the front door, there's the little ad that Mark put together for the podcast. And you can figure out ways to download it. But, if you don't have access to actually listening to shows on demand. You're missing this wonderful, rich audio experience. So I encourage everyone to do that. Really, so fabulous. So check it out, the Jill on Money podcast. Mark, during the break, we got a lot of questions and comments on our YouTube channel, which we also have a YouTube channel, which is called Jill on Money. And we put up a pod about, did I retire too early? This guy, Tim T, says, what a ridiculous call, for crying out loud. What a waste of time calling in, because someone called and said they had like $1.9 million and they wanted to know if they were on track. And I always think it's funny because people get really exercised about the fact that we have people who come on the air, have questions, and they actually have money. So I encourage everyone, whether you have money or don't have money, to just sort of suspend your judgment a little bit, okay? And just think about this, that everyone has money questions. And if it's easier for you to think about these questions, besides saying like, oh, you're an idiot. I mean, I'm not putting someone on who has $10 million and they don't know whether they can retire or not. They retired, they saved a bunch of money, but they spend a lot of money. And so they may have real questions. This guy, Peter, wrote in after the same exact episode, said, we retired a bit early in our mid to late 50s. We live in a lower cost of living area. Being conservative is great for retirees. Okay, so then he says the caller has a lot of assets to live on since she's a saver with low expenses, so she shouldn't take on any risk beyond what she has now. Sooner or later, I would leave any area for a less pricey environment and have fun spending down the assets by traveling and hobbies and charity. The last thing he writes is, financially, the writer has no worries other than listening to others who want money for themselves, perhaps. What do you think of that, Mark? I was like, whoa, that is a pretty big reaction. You remember the call was like that aroused all of this anxiety in people, was had money. But people really, I don't know. I just think you don't need to go crazy with being judgmental. Just know that everyone's got questions. And whenever I read these numbers off, if it's freaking you out and you've got a question about your life, just send us an email and we'll answer your question regardless of how much money you have. Okay? How's that? Good. Robert is 62 years old and says, I don't plan on working full time anymore. I've got $85,000 in a Roth IRA, 15 grand in cash. And in 2 months, I will be inheriting $470,000 in cash and $30,000 in a real estate partnership. Okay. At 62, my Social Security retirement benefit is $1,410 a month. I have a spare bedroom that I've rented for $600 per month in the past, but not currently doing so. I think not these days, and will only do so in the future if the funds are necessary. Okay. $744 a month on a mortgage, just refinanced, 2.25% through the VA, no other debts. Question, should I pay off the $202,000 mortgage? No! Come on. No, do not. No. He ran a bunch of scenarios. Absolutely not. Do not pay off the mortgage. Don't pay off the mortgage. I would consider this. What would happen for you if you didn't take your retirement at 62? What happens if you wait until your full retirement age? I'm looking at the money you have. I get that you have a Roth IRA, but you're inheriting 470 grand in cash. What happens if you took some portion of that 470, use it to live on, and then waited to claim your Social Security benefit at your full retirement age? Might that be interesting? I think that would be a nice thing to do. That's what I would do in terms of, everything else is sort of superfluous. Don't pay off the mortgage. Mark, you agree? Wholeheartedly, says he. Okay. Mark writes, subject, what to do with our savings? Mark and his wife are 52 years old. No kids, houses paid off. Combined, $1 million in a 401k, 640 grand in company stock, yowza, $90,000 in other investments. They have $500,000 in a savings account. And he says, my wife is afraid to do anything with the money. Obviously, we're not gaining anything on the money. What do you suggest we do with it? I was thinking of putting some of it in a Vanguard Wellesley fund. Oh, this is a tough one. I'll tell you why. Is your wife concerned because of the money that's in the company's stock? In other words, is she thinking of this $500,000 in savings as like a balance to the 640 in the company stock? Because I could almost understand that. that some have called that a barbell approach to investing, like one end, one stock very risky, on the other end, no risk. And I guess that what I would be more interested for you guys to consider is, should you be looking at your $1.14 million in your company stock and savings as one pot of non-qualified money? Okay. And then use that and plan to use that in a way that augments the money that you have in your retirement savings. Because in some respects, without knowing more about you, it's hard to say what you should do with this. I mean, are you going to work till you're 70, or are you going to try to work till you're 66? What's the game plan? I get that no kids, the house is paid off, but I almost need more information, and I'd love it. It would be so great. Mark, see if we can wrangle these folks. Love to get him and his wife on the line at the same time. That would be interesting to me, because then we could start to kind of peel some of the layers back and find out what is causing the wife to be nervous. Is it just plain old risk? Is it risk because of the company stock? Is it something else? Did you have a bad experience in the markets? I don't know. I feel like there's more of a story there. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe you'd come on the air. It would be so much fun. We'll make it fun and easy. Okay, it's Jill on Money. If you'd like to join us on the air, send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com, and let us know you want to come on the air. Mark will do the rest. I want to hear your voices. It's so much better, right? Because now I can ask the follow-up questions. Okay. While we go to break, do me a favor. Just hop onto the website, jillonmoney.com, and bookmark it. That's all you need to do, and then you can send it to other folks who want to expand our listenership. Okay, we'll be right back.
.401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. We are here to take the mystery out of your financial life. You know what I love to do, Mark, is I love looking at the Wall Street Journal's year-end review, where they go by the assets, winners and losers, and what performed well, what didn't. And at the top of this list, it's not all inclusive, but COMEX Silver, which I used to trade, COMEX Silver options, COMEX Silver up 47.7%. And the NASDAQ Composite up 43.6%. How's that? That's a pretty good year. Gold was up about 25%. Big year for gold. How about the little stocks? The Russell 2000 up 18%. The S&P 500 was up 16.3%. So a darn good year. It's pretty much a good year for everything. But the best year of all, I believe, was for Bitcoin, which I think was up something like 300%. That was a big year. Not that you should go buy Bitcoin, but it's always fun to look at these things because, things move up and down on the list. You never know. One year, energy's the top of the list. This year, unfortunately, if you owned a lot of oil, you had a rough year. The S&P 500 energy sector down 37%. Diversified portfolios, I like them. You know what I think we're going to do, Mark, though? I think we should do a show on the future of balanced portfolios, because I think those are tough for people to deal with. They just don't, with interest rates so low, it's really hard. Anyway, send us your question. Let us know how you did last year, and we'll be happy to talk to you. Okay? Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. This is someone who listened to a webinar that I had done back in 2019. And he says, I have 3 young child. One is newborn. Oldest is 6 years old. I opened a 529 for the first kid in New York, which is where I lived at the time. Moved to California, and the California 529 plan has no tax benefits. I wonder if there are better alternatives. California 529 counts against a student when applying for grants, aid, scholarship. per the FAFSA form. Well, that's not just the California 529. All the 529 plans count against you on FAFSA. He goes on to write, the kid with the highest 529 balance won't qualify for need-based grants or otherwise. I don't know how much you make, but you're probably not going to get it anyway. Here's the question. I had someone try to sell me on a whole life insurance policy with living benefits, as apparently these are not counted as assets when evaluating kids on need-based grants and loans. Roth and 401k are excluded as assets when evaluating need. Any thoughts on this? Yeah, don't do it. I don't know how much money you make. I know where you work. But I'm going to guess that maybe if you're saving for retirement and you're maxing out, that's great, but do not do whole life. And I hate the idea of using whole life because it's so expensive. Now, if you make a bunch of money anyway, you might not be able to qualify for any of the need-based grants, but I need more information to know because maybe you're worrying about the wrong thing. Do not do this life insurance, okay? Okay, Patrick writes, I've written in once or twice over the last decade, but my connection to you goes back even farther, to your old radio show in Providence, Rhode Island. How about that? For the last 20 years or so, I've been listening to the advice that you've been giving out. It has served my wife and me well, both in keeping perspective about what money is and how to effectively manage the money that we have. That's nice. We've done great financially, saving and investing in markets through ups and downs and staying the course and avoiding many of the financial pitfalls that are out there. During this period, we've managed to grow our net worth into the $2 to $3 million range. Wow. We are well on track for our retirement, probably sometime in the 2030s, and also to get our kids through college sometime. But now I have a couple of questions brought on by a recent event. A bequest has supercharged our financial position, and we now are worth, you ready for this? $10 million. Did I not say earlier in the program we shouldn't put people on have $10 million mark? I'm just kidding. Okay. With your help, I feel totally fine managing $2 to $3 million, most of which was in IRAs. But do we need help with more money? If so, what kind of help? My sense is that we should move beyond one of the big national accounting firms and get a CPA. Should we check in with a financial planner? Would you recommend getting a planner to manage the money? There is the question of estate planning lawyers. I see little reason to set up complex estate plans to avoid taxes. Perhaps in 10 or 20 years, when our kids are adults, we'll be more interested in aggressive gifting or complex estate trust, but not for now. How do I find professionals like this in my area? Looking for these kinds of professionals makes me feel incredibly vulnerable. It's not exactly the kind of, quote, problem that I can discuss with friends. Thanks for your years of financial help. Happy New Year, Patrick. Okay, so first of all, I think the idea of being freaked out a little bit about the bigger number, I understand. It doesn't mean you have to hire someone to do it. I mean, it is just a bigger number, right? But I do think that you may want to kind of assemble a team. And that team would be an estate planning attorney. It would probably be an accountant, and it would be a financial planner. I think that just so you have peace of mind with someone who can manage the planning process and help you marshal those professionals, I think that would be really good for you. So this is what I'm going to do. Because I know where you are, I'm going to send some on the sly recommendations for you. Hopefully that will serve you well. If you are all listening and wondering, how does this relate to you? Just make sure that you understand when any sort of big change in your life occurs, good or bad, that's often a time to consult someone who will do a holistic financial plan for you. Okay? So you can always get a CFP at letsmakeaplan.org, or you can go to NAPFA, NAPFA.org. Okay, it's Jill on Money. When we return, more of your questions, whether you have $10 or $10 million. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. And we are here to try to help get your 2021 started with a good burst of energy and by figuring out what you need to do to help you achieve your financial goals. Every single person has a different goal and objective. Whatever it is that seems to be holding you back, give us a holler. Maybe we can help you out. It's so easy to do. Just send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Scott has a 401k question. He says, I am almost 59 years old. I have a mortgage that will carry on into retirement. Does it make sense financially to pay off the mortgage with my 401k? Scott, it does not. And so many of you ask this question. Mark always likes to put these questions in where we get just slugs of them. We get so many people who ask this exact question. The reason why we do not advocate doing this is that when you take the money out of your retirement account, you are taxed on it. And so that all of a sudden makes it a tax burden question. And I'm not sure that if you have a mortgage in your retirement, that it's the worst thing in the world. I'd have to know a little bit more about you, but in general, we don't love this idea. We like you to have liquidity. We want you to hold on to your money. That said, if for some reason there's something else going on, maybe you've got a ton of money in the 401k and you're in a very low tax bracket and you can start taking a little bit out at a time and the tax isn't too burdensome, okay, fine. But if all the money you have in the world is in that 401k and you really need it to live on or you need it to supplement your Social Security, I would encourage you not to use it. It is an emotional decision oftentimes to pay down that mortgage. I know it. I know it would feel so good, but you don't have to do it. It is a much better idea to take it slow, and keep that money where it is, because once you pay down that mortgage, where's the money? It's gone. So what happens if you need money in the future? It's out of your reach. It's in the house. So I, of course, would like to know more about what's going on for you, but in general, I don't love this as a financial planning method. Okay? All right. We've got a whole nother hour left in this show, so don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. It's Jill on Money. Hop onto the website, jillonmoney.com, and go check out our resource section. Lots of great stuff there. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome back. It's hour number 2 of Jill on Money. We are so delighted that you are joining us. As many longtime listeners know, we use the second hour for an interview usually. And to start our new year off right, we have a return guest. His name is Brent Weiss. He's from a company called Facet Wealth. Now, we had him on the show a couple of years ago, and he and I maintained a relationship after we had been in touch to begin with because I was very intrigued by the Facet Wealth model. Basically, they're trying to do financial planning for individuals in a more cost-effective way. And so he and I stayed in touch, and then guess what? Now, in 2021, Facet Wealth is now a sponsor of our show, which is fantastic. So I'm very happy about that. And we are going to start the year off with Brent explaining a little bit about what's going on at Facet Wealth and why you might be interested in this model. This is a model I think has a ton of merit and, frankly, in many respects, is a model that I'm interested to see whether more big financial firms adopt, because it is a bigger tent, a way to bring more people into the world of financial planning. So here is the first part of our interview with Brent Weiss from Facet Wealth. How did you find those first couple of months, that March, February, March, April period where people were freaking out? What did you hear from your clients?
We went on sort of, I'll say, the offensive. We got very proactive with our clients and started doing weekly webinars or video conference sessions. The interesting side of the story, Jill, is that I'm not going to say we were built for a global pandemic, but we actually started our company in 2016, with the idea that we're going to have a remote workforce. So we actually were designed for this, so that there was zero disruption to our business. So the good news is we were also set up to start doing video conference. Our clients knew like all of their meetings with their CFP professionals are via video conference. So the first couple of weeks when the markets, I mean, it was like a roller coaster, right? It was down 12%, up 7%. Our clients were going, what's going on? What do we do? And so we set up a weekly webinar or lunch and learn series, as we now call it, to make sure that we're addressing all the concerns of our clients. The really cool thing, though, is that all of our clients could call their dedicated CFP, right? There's no call center here. They're calling someone they know, someone they trust. And I think that personal relationship really helped people feel more confident in their and secure in their financial lives. That, hey, there's an entire team and a person that has their back. So we went on the offensive, went proactive, and made sure we were providing good advice to our clients.
So let's just go back in time a little bit, because for some of you who are listening, you may not be familiar with Facet Wealth. So I met Brent through Michael Goodman, who had told me about this company, Facet Wealth, that was doing financial planning in a different way. You were a certified financial planner working at one of these, kind of fancy-ish firms, right? You were giving customized individual financial advice. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
So then tell us a little bit about how this thing, Facet Wealth, like what were the kernels of the idea and how did it come to fruition?
Yeah. So, very short backstory, Jill. We were talking a minute ago here about sort of how my family's doing and everything. And I grew up with my grandparents and when I was younger and got into financial planning directly out of college. The funny thing is, when I was graduating from Notre Dame, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I'm sure like most people when you're 21 or 22, but they offered a personal finance course as a senior. And I ran over. I remember waking up that morning. I was so excited. I don't know why. I ran over and I signed up for it, only to find out they canceled the class because 3 people, Jill, signed up.
In all of Notre Dame?
Yes, in all of Notre Dame, right? Really, in theory, Jill, really, really smart people. It's like we spent 4 years learning how to make money and not a single second learning how to manage it, right? But the funny thing is the 3 people, and the joke I tell is like the 2 other people were the teacher and the teacher's assistant and then me. Right. But here's what happened, right? So they canceled the class. Said, interesting. And that led me to stumbling upon the CFP certification and the designation. I got started in a traditional wealth management role and worked in a smaller, I'll say boutique wealth management firm in Baltimore. What I realized there's 2 things as I went up through the ranks and all of that is that 2 things were missing in the industry. Number one is consistent quality. The quality of advice for everyday Americans just wasn't there. And then number 2 is the cost was too high. I mean, you had to work with certain advisors. You had to have $1 million at least. There are minimums out there. You had to have, you had to make a ton of money. You had to have a ton of money. I'm going, my family, successful, middle-class, hardworking American household, in theory, couldn't afford me. I said, that's no longer okay. And that led to what I believe is that everyone deserves access to the financial resources that can help them achieve a more prosperous life. I believe it's a fundamental right to have access to the tools, resources, and expert advice that you deserve, right, to improve your financial health. And Facet Wealth embodies that. It's a personification of that whole theory and the idea that we're going to make high-quality, personalized, high-quality financial life planning more affordable and accessible to everyday Americans, just like my family, because there's a lot of us out there, right? This is a fight for Main Street, not for Wall Street. And that's sort of, we started that mission back in 2016.
It's interesting because we've had a lot of guests on the program, and it kind of spans the variety of financial advice you can get. And then there are these hybrid models where you have, say, Betterment, a robo-advisor that went into the advice business. You have Vanguard, the big, huge mutual fund company that now has a little advice on the side. You have Schwab that has a little advice through the intelligent portfolio. What's the difference between those hybrid models and what Facet does?
Yeah, so Jill, it's a great question because I think it's hard for, I'll say, everyday Americans to really cut through all the information that's out there. It's sliced through and you go, well, what's the difference between Vanguard versus Facet versus some of the larger organizations out there? The JP Morgan Chases and the Goldman Sachs are known for traditional wealth management. There's a couple important things that to really understand. Is number one, why we started this company, but really how we do this, right? So you talk about a robo-advisor. It's it's automated investment management and like advice light. So
Right.
they're not really looking at all of the facets of your financial life. It is automated online. They have limited number of CFP professionals. And there's no dedicated advisor you work with. So here's what we do, though. So our whole mission here, right, as I mentioned a minute ago, Jill, is to make advice more affordable and accessible. Financial planning, right? Holistic, personalized financial planning more affordable and accessible. It's really to help clients make more informed and confident decisions in life. We just happen to do that through this powerful thing that we call financial planning. There's really 5 key takeaways here. Number one is what we do. At our core, we are planning first. We also manage assets for our clients, Jill, but here's the kicker. We don't charge for it. The way we charge for our services, we charge a flat, simple, transparent, subscription-based fee for financial planning that we do for our clients. Because it's based upon, what do you need? What are you trying to achieve? What's the complexity of your financial landscape? And really, how can we help? And we charge a fee that is customized and personalized to you. And then, by the way, we do manage assets. We just don't charge for it. Because I'm a firm believer that the assets under management model is broken. There's no tie to how much you're paying your advisor and how much value you're getting out of that relationship. And by the way, I know this because I did it for 10 years at my first company, right? As I could charge the same client who has, let's say, 2 clients of $1 million. I could be doing very different things for them and still charging them the same amount. I said, that's wrong. A, it's not affordable, and B, it's wrong. And also, I'm a firm believer, Jill, that like as you save more money, as your money grows, you should keep it. That's your money. You worked hard for it. Let it work harder for you. Don't give it to me as your advisor. Pay me for the services I provide, for the value I bring. And that, I think, is a fair and transparent relationship. That's what people deserve. And if you build a company the right way for the people, right, what do everyday Americans deserve in their financial life? I think everything else falls into place.
We'll get back to our interview with Brent Weiss in just a minute. Hey, during the break, hop onto our website. It is called JillOnMoney.com. And there, you can always get to us. We've got a contact button, but you can also sign up for our free weekly newsletter. And don't forget, you can subscribe to our sister broadcast. It's called Jill on Money. Haha, get it? Jill on Money, the podcast, the radio show, it's all the same. And the website, Jill on Money, that's all you need to remember. Okay, we'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and this is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. We are in the midst of a long interview with a guy named Brent Weiss. And Brent is from a firm called Facet Wealth. They're investment advisors. And what's interesting about this company is that they are trying to bring more people into the world of financial planning with a model that is probably more suitable to most of you who listen to this program, meaning that, you know, in most cases, when you seek financial advice, you kind of have the tippy top of the pyramid, like 1% of all the money you have to pay as a fee. Or you have at the other end of the spectrum, a much lower priced robo hybrid advice model, which can work really well for some people, but there's not a lot in the middle. So I'm intrigued by the folks who occupy the middle. I always consider that to be the most interesting part of the business of providing financial advice. So here's more of our interview with Brent Weiss of Facet Wealth. How are you guys staying in business and doing it this way? Why do you think it's been working for you guys since you started?
Look, the whole key is this. We don't know all the answers, but I've dedicated my career, Jill, to the journey of exploration, discovery, frankly, failure to figure out how the heck do we make this thing more affordable to everyday Americans. It's a fight for Main Street, not for Wall Street at this point when it comes to access to financial planning. The key is in the technology because you have to lower the cost. I won't get into all the details, right? I ran a boutique, traditional independent wealth management firm for the first 10 years of my career before I stepped down as a partner and said, I'm going to go build something better for Main Street, for everyday Americans. The problem is the cost structure. No one ever really focused on the cost structure. The industry for decades took a revenue down model. It said, how much money can we make given the size of a portfolio? And then I'll backfill it with some services, right? What can I provide to do it? But no one ever said, how much does it actually cost to deliver like a really highly personalized service to people based upon what they need? And so we actually deconstructed the entire thing. I'm going to go on a limb here, and I'm not equating myself to Elon Musk or Tesla, but think about what Tesla did when it comes to a car. They deconstructed sort of the automobile. They deconstructed the electric battery, right? How to make all of this work to make it more affordable and accessible. Now, there's a lot of other things that they do. We completely deconstructed the financial planning process and said, how do we cut out all of the costs that aren't necessary, that aren't adding value to our clients' lives? Right. And so the way we're staying in business is we've radically reduced the cost internally to our business so we can actually charge an affordable fee, because it would be ridiculous to charge somebody $100 a month or $200 a month if it's costing you $500. That's not a sustainable business model.
Right.
And so that's the key to it. And then the whole thing on top of it is like working with a dedicated CFP professional, getting truly holistic financial life planning based upon where you are in life. I tell everybody, like, I don't care where you are in life. You deserve some level of advice. It shouldn't be cookie cutter. It should be personalized to you. It should be completely unconflicted, right? So our fee model makes it that way. So you're not worried about your advisor selling you stuff. And the whole model comes together. And I think it's a pretty elegant solution.
I think so too. And I was thinking about this in terms of like the questions that we get from our listeners are often, I've got this much money in my 401k, right?
Mhm.
Not to go too in the weeds in this, gang, but like there are some conflicts around people providing financial advice in assets that are not held within their purview. Okay. That's all you need to know, that there's like some advisors are very uncomfortable giving advice or actually physically managing the money that's held through your employer. And so then they're giving you advice and then you have to do it. And then you're not going to do it because, you just don't do it. And so it also strikes me that this is a much more reasonable solution for people who say, I want advice, but I'm not handing you the keys to my kingdom. And I don't want to be sold the idea that the day I retire, you're coming and sniffing after me and
Mhm.
looking for all my money. So your advisors, your CFPs, and they're all CFPs, are giving advice that is in the client's best interest because they're all fiduciaries. They're doing so for any asset you hold. So are they going to also, in building a plan, say, okay, Jill, you've got, $10 million in your retirement account. I wish. And that's really heavy duty. So we want you to think about doing this. But even if you're not holding the asset, you're giving advice on it, right?
Absolutely. It's the beauty of paying someone a flat fee that has nothing to do with your assets. We have clients, look, most of our clients, Jill, they don't have $10 million in their retirement accounts. Frankly, I don't know many people that do. That's not the group I run in. But here's like most of our clients, Jill, are really starting their journey to building wealth. They're younger clients. Now, by the way, we work with people that are transitioning to retirement too. Have a lot of sort of challenges coming down the pike, but they're starting their journey to wealth and they're going, how do I manage my 401k, my 403b? Or what if I want to do that myself? And I just want someone by my side to help me make more informed and confident decisions. You go, cool, great. Pay me a flat fee and we'll talk about how to build wealth over time. But there's no conflict and sort of you have to manage the money with me for me to give you advice.
Right. And that means also that an advisor at Facet Wealth is also going to be giving you advice on, hey, I got a new job offer. Like I'm Jill, I just got a job offer. Here's what I can do and here's what I can't do. And that there is a relationship based on advice, and it's not about transaction and it's not about performance. I mean, you want your performance to be fine, I'm sure, but like
Absolutely.
it's really interesting to me to consider that this is a model whose time has come, I think, it just hasn't panned out. And I'm wondering also what you think about, like, when you look at your competition, certainly you've got a lot of people out there who did what you did, right? They work in the higher end. Are you nervous that a Facet client is going to quote unquote graduate from Facet and go to someone else?
Not really, Jill, because I think if you look at our team, they come from all walks of life. I mean, they're from ages of 25 to 55, or I don't ask, right? They're incredibly experienced professionals with high levels of education. Some of them used to run their own businesses and do this kind of work and come over. We just said, pay us a fair freight for the work that we're doing. That's why our fee, Jill, it's not like we have one flat fee that everyone comes in and pays. It's like, well, you have to pay, $100 a month, $200 a month to work with Facet Wealth. It's completely personalized to every single one of our clients. So if someone has a more complicated financial landscape, you might be paying more. Right? If you have, I'm going to exaggerate a bit here. If you have 3 businesses or like 2 side hustles and you work a job and you have 4 kids trying to retire, run a business, save for college, like that's more complicated than someone who might be 30 years old, just got engaged and trying to think about how do I figure out, putting bank accounts together? And what about the wedding? And what do you do in a wedding in COVID-19 and before and after? Those are very different situations. And so personalizing all of that makes it very easy to meet you where you are. Again, this idea of you have to have wealth or make a ton of money to need financial advice, I think that's, I'll say horse hockey to keep it PG-13.
Nice.
For today's conversation, no matter where you are in life, we have a solution that can give you guidance. And the fee is customized to make sure that it's affordable and fits into your budget and helps you out.
Okay, 2 questions about the fee, and then we'll move on because I want to talk about like how people can actually do the things they need to do to get ahead this year. So, is there a minimum fee requirement? Not asset level, but a fee. Like, do you have to pay a certain amount just to actually get in the door?
There are minimum fee requirements in terms of what that flat fee would look like in working with a planner. It does change based upon sort of what you need. There isn't sort of a free DIY service. There is a minimum fee to working with one of our CFP professionals here at Facet.
And does it change? In other words, can a CFP in Dubuque charge something slightly different than the CFP in New York City or the Bay Area?
No, not at Facet. Not here.
Oh,
So,
interesting. It almost appears like they own their own little business because they operate as their own little sort of home office, but they still have to adhere to the rules that you guys, the corporate, has established, right?
we do have what we call the Facet way, right? I'm not going to go into the details because I could spend weeks.
Yeah. I got you. Go to the website. Go to facetwealth.com.
The bottom line is this: there's a right way to do financial planning. There's a right way to tackle things such as, talking about cash flow, paying down debt, just getting financially organized, managing your bank balances, building credit, saving for retirement. There are right ways, in our opinion, right? The Facet way to do that. Now, the real key here, the reason we have a bunch of CFPs and they're working from home is because we want to match every one of our clients with the CFP that's right for them based upon personality is good. Like, it's important. Jill, if you don't have rapport with your financial planner, it probably will make for an awkward conversation.
I totally agree with that, by the way. I totally agree with that.
And then the layer beneath that is, okay, let's make sure we're pairing you with a CFP that really understands your situation. And so that's the beauty of our model is we just have a bunch of CFPs, really passionate, incredibly smart people that we make sure we pair with all of our clients to give excellent service.
We'll get back to our interview with Brent Weiss in just a second. Hey, this is what you should do during the break. Go to the website, jillonmoney.com, and when you're there, you can go read about financial resolutions. Yes, financial resolutions. It's on the website. Just go to the read column of jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. You see, before the break, I gave you some homework. I said, hey, you got to go to the website and read about our financial resolutions. There is a method to my madness, please. Because in this next part of our interview with Brent Weiss of Facet Wealth, we're going to talk about some of the lessons that we all learned in 2020. And candidly, the biggest lesson that I learned in 2020 was, you guys have always heard me talk about the big three, which is an emergency reserve fund with 6 to 12 months of your living expenses, paying down debt, and funding retirement. I used to kind of treat them all equally. Now I'm a little bit more in the camp of the emergency reserve fund has to come first, and really the other two follow that. We all learned that lesson, but what other lessons were learned in 2020? I think we all needed to take a breath and reset our financial lives. And boy, did a pandemic do it. So here's more of our interview with Brent Weiss of Facet Wealth, who's going to talk about some of the other lessons of 2020. What is it, do you think, is the lesson of 2020 that people need to really think about going into this new year? How do you think people need to take what just happened to all of us and apply it to their financial lives?
The number one thing I know that I've learned in 2020 for myself and for all of our clients is that we have to focus on what I'll call our financial foundation. What we realized in 2020 is that this health crisis exposed some cracks in the financial health foundation, if you will, of a lot of American households out there. Now, what is that foundation? That foundation starts with having positive cash flow, right? Spending less than you make. Positive cash flow, discretionary income to put towards the things that matter most to you in your life and your longer term financial goals. That's like the nutrition that feeds the system, right?
Yep.
That feeds your financial body. Number two, building an emergency fund. I think we saw a lot of people at first were like, oh, geez, maybe I didn't have enough money to get me through a 3 or 6 month period of income disruption or income loss. We've seen, record levels of unemployment. We're still at record levels of unemployment. Number three, really hammering down or getting rid of bad debt. The biggest issue, the crisis that's coming now is a student loan crisis, right? $1.6-ish trillion in student loans. But people are like, credit card debt's a problem, personal loans, really making sure that you get rid of that bad personal debt.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then number four, which is I'm going to say is like the least sexy thing that I'll ever talk about, is making sure that you and your family are protected.
I think we need to make death and estate planning sexy again. Okay, it never was sexy, but you know what I'm saying? That I do believe that we just need to stop with this and say, I know no one wants to think about death. Well, tough luck. You're an adult. sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do. We need to change the way we talk about that. I really I'm so 100% clear that people, one thing that they can take out of this is like, hey, you know what? Make sure that your healthcare proxy is taken care of. You never know what's going to
Amen.
happen. Now
Yeah.
that and for a while, people are not going to like roll their eyes and be like, oh no, because they're going to say, oh yeah, I really don't know that.
So here's actually, and if we want to talk about sort of New Year's resolutions or how to make it sound different, the way I talk about it to my clients is don't think about it as executing your will. What I ask my clients is, what matters most to you? Right? What are you trying to achieve? And they go, you know what? I really want to make sure that I'm financially secure, all of that, but like I'm taking care of my kids and my family. Well, okay, you know how we do that? Let's make sure you have your estate planning documents. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be, I get it, it's not fun. But really, here's a key question I ask every one of my clients, Jill. What is the most valuable asset you have? Everybody goes, well, it's my home, it's my 401k. And I go, well, let me stop you. I go, it's you.
Right.
You're the most valuable asset. You're the breadwinner. You're the one generating income. You're the one taking care of your family. They go, wow, I never thought about it that way. I go, let's make sure we're taking care of you. Right. And this is little things like your employee benefits, your health insurance, disability insurance, your life insurance, making sure that you and the ones you love are protected. Heaven forbid something happens to you. I know we hate talking about that, but really important parts of your financial foundation. And then from there, we can talk about the more fun stuff of, hey, now let's talk about investing. Now let's talk about building wealth. Now let's talk about creating a legacy for generations to come. But we have to focus on that financial foundation before we should take the next step and focus on the larger wealth conversation down the road.
How do you, I mean, once you've gotten people to sort of manage that financial foundation, or at least pinky swear with their advisor that they're going to do that, okay? Once you get them to do that, what's the best way to try to stick to it? I think that that's where people find themselves at a loss. Like, okay, it's January. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to like walk more, eat better. I'm ready to manage my financial life. Now, let's go fast forward. It's 5-6 months from now. And hopefully, God willing, the world has opened up. And now it's like, I want to travel. I want to spend. I want to. And how do you get people to stay on track?
Here's what I know. Improving your overall financial health is about a healthier lifestyle. It takes really, think about really small changes you can make. It's the KISS. I know I changed the KISS acronym, but like keep it super small. Like don't go out there and go, you know what? I'm going to change my financial life in 2021. Because you're probably, first of all, it's not very clear, right? Like what does that actually mean? Like how do you know you're there? I go find your why and you'll find your way. Right? Really understand, why do I want to achieve certain goals in my life? What does it mean to me? What does money help me do in life? And then from there, go, okay, now I understand what's most important to me. Let me try 3 goals. Don't have 10 or 15. You'll never achieve.
Right. I mean, I think that you're right. Making it measurable and making it attainable and, all of those things. I mean, listen, as someone who was also trained as a CFP like you, I also really do believe that when you work with somebody, I think you're more likely to actually reach the goal and keep the resolution. I really do, because it's hard to do it on your own. It just is.
It is. Well, I call myself a commitment coach. Remember, part of our job as a financial planner is not just to give you really good advice and based upon what you want to achieve in your goals and help you make more informed and confident decisions. It's to help you meet the commitments that you make to yourself. As a planner, you're not making a commitment to me, right? You're paying me to do a job for you. You're making a commitment to something that you believe in your life. And so my job is then to help you commit, right? Maintain your commitment to that. And so what I do for a lot of my clients, we may not meet every single month. Frankly, no one wants to talk to me every single month. I joke with my clients, like, look, I'd love to talk to you every single week or every single month, but you probably don't want to meet with your financial planner that often. So we typically, every 3 months or 6 months, we're doing a video conference session to check in. But sometimes for my clients, I'll send them an email once a month and say, hey, Jill, how are you doing on your updated budget? How are you doing on paying down some of that debt? How are you doing on your saving for that new home that you want to buy? That actually works.
We'll get back to our interview with Brent Weiss in just a second. If you need financial advice, well, some of it is for free. Just go to our website, JillOnMoney.com. And while you're there, you can check out all the content that we create. You can read, you can listen to old shows, you can watch my TV appearances, and there's a great resource section. So check it out, JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. And if you're on the website, you can just click the contact button. Many of you write in with a question around getting financial advice. And I was interested in this, and when I was talking to a friend of mine recently who was talking to two different financial advisors, and he's telling me about like one does this, and it's just chatting, and he goes, which one of them is really going to watch the markets for me? Which is the one who's going to? And I said, Peter, you don't have to worry about that. A monkey could do the investment part. The biggest reason to hire and engage a financial advisor, a CFP, is for the other stuff, for the planning, for holding your hand, for making sure you don't screw up whatever the track that you are on, yet you don't mess up your plan by making a bad decision. It's the person who will hear when you have a real problem or a different opportunity and will be able to adjust the advice based on who you are. So in this part of our interview with Brent Weiss of Facet Wealth, we are talking about what in fact is the role of a financial advisor in your life. Here's more of our interview with Brent. What is the role of an advisor trying to get someone back on track after they've fallen off the wagon?
I think the first thing is you have to be there by their side and not judge them, right? I was going to say this is a no judgment zone. The two things we're never taught in life are money and relationships, yet money and relationships touch every part of our lives. So this isn't easy. I actually talked to someone yesterday who said, I have so much anxiety and stress and embarrassment over my money because I don't know how to do this thing. I said, well, first of all, I said, welcome to being human.
That's exactly right.
Right. So number one is we're not here to judge anybody. No judgment zone. Look, I've made mistakes in my financial life. I just happen to be a CFP. So I should know better. So I can judge myself, but we don't judge our clients. Number one, that's what it is. Number two is understanding the cause of the issue, right? What's the root cause? How did we get to where we are today? What does money mean to us? What are the things that are keeping us from achieving some of those goals? And then frankly saying, hey, maybe it wasn't the right goal. Maybe we set the wrong goal, or maybe it wasn't realistic given the things that we had. I mean,
give me an example of that. Give me an example, because I think that's important to say that, you set out a goal and maybe something has happened in your real life or something, or just it hasn't worked. So give an example of that.
Well, I think the primary thing I can share with you is a lot of times is there's this social media financial life thing that we all see, right? So some people go out there and say, hey, you know what? I want to buy a house, or I want to buy a new car, and they want to buy an expensive, whatever it is. And we go, okay, like that sounds good. That's the goal that we're going to set. Let's go try to achieve it. And then all of a sudden they realize that they meet the love of their life, or they're getting engaged, or they're getting married, or COVID-19 hits, and they go, hey, you know what? Maybe that wasn't the most important thing. Maybe I value flexibility. So maybe buying a house right now isn't the right thing for me. I've actually had several clients say that. It's like, oh, I want to buy a house. I go, you know what? Hey, life is changing very quickly. Life is changing rapidly. I think one of the things that we get wrong, Jill, in financial planning, it's almost like here's the tablet handed down from the top of the mountain, right? These are your goals, stick to them or else. It really should be more of this like iterative, ongoing, living, breathing thing that people have. If you build a flexible, adaptive financial plan, or really financial life, you can make changes. And by the way, if you don't achieve a goal, like it's okay to miss the mark on some of these.
I want to have a conversation with you about this. Let's use the analogy of my Apple Watch. You're very into your fitness. I know this.
Yes.
Right?
It's near and dear to my heart.
Okay. So when you set a goal of a move goal on your Apple Watch, or you, Brent, set some goal about like, here's how much I'm going to work out or whatever. How do you manage being a certain type of person when you don't hit that goal every day? For example, I changed my move goal, and now I'm not hitting it every day, and it's driving me crazy. What should I do? Because it's really the same thing as setting a financial goal, and I may not be able to achieve it necessarily. And like, how do I manage that emotionally? What's the suggestion?
Well, I think the first thing is step back and go, okay, like, why did I set this higher goal? Like, what does that goal actually mean? Like, is it the right goal? Number one, like, okay, so I want to move more. Great. Okay. I didn't achieve it. Well, how do you take smaller steps towards it? Literally smaller steps towards it. Like I don't have a Fit, but I have a Whoop strap. So it doesn't track my steps. I actually don't care about my steps. It's a strain thing versus a step thing. Right, it's saying, okay, maybe the bar was too high. Like if I want to go, and Jill, you have to correct me on this. Like maybe you want to get to 20,000 steps a day. I don't even know what that means, right? 20,000 steps. And let's say you were going from 15,000 to 20,000. You're like, geez, why didn't I get to 20,000? Like, well, can I get to 16,000? And then can I consistently get to 17,000? This goes back to the conversation we had about resolutions. Like,
Right.
it comes down to habits. Like, how do we create healthier habits personally, professionally, financially, and gradually improve them over time? If we try to make these, right, the new year, new you thing, if we try to achieve it overnight, we're never going to do it. Now, it also comes down to understanding who you are. Like, I'm the kind of person, I'll set a really lofty goal. And if I don't achieve it, I'm like, okay, cool. That was a pretty big goal. I'm okay with that. But some people need to say, you know what, instead of going from 15,000 steps to 20, maybe I go 15,000 and my new goal is 16,000. So when I achieve it, I feel really good. There are other people who go, you know what, I'm going to push myself and 20,000 is the goal, but I'm also not going to beat myself up if I only get to 17,000.
I like that idea that it does have to be personalized. And you know what? Like, screw me. I have to like get okay with it. And it's the same thing with your financial life. Like, some people will say to me, like, they'll get on the air with us and they'll say, I want to retire when I'm 59. And I'll say, I don't think you can. You know, you may want to, but I don't think you can. I can't give you the security that you'll get there safely, or that getting there, then retiring, I can't tell you that everything's going to be just fine when you're 82. We have to just get right with that. Like, acceptance is a part of this. We'll get back to our interview with Brent Weiss in just a second. Hey, if you are interested in checking out the questions to ask a financial advisor, guess what? We've got that. It's in our resource section at JillOnMoney.com. Check it out. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we're just going to get right into it. Here's an interesting idea from our guest, Brent Weiss of Facet Wealth.
It's the 1% pledge. Like, what 1% change can you make today? Maybe you're contributing 5% to your 401k. Can you go to 6%? Can you go from 10%?
I like that. I like the 1% pledge. Mark, let's steal that. Maybe we should incorporate this into some of our conversations with people. Like, what is the one thing, like 1% better that you'll do this year with your financial life? I'm going to take my retirement contributions and I'm going to go from 5% to 6%, right? That's an easy one.
So here's the thing, right? Number one, before you take the 1% pledge, just write down the things that matter most to you, right? And like, I would even say, draw a line down the middle of a page and do two things. On one side, write down the things that are creating stress in your financial life. On the other side, write down the things you feel good about in your financial life. Okay. Now, primarily what most people want to do is they want to get out of the things that are causing stress. But what I want you to do, and then prioritize them. Because for a lot of people, Jill, if I go through this list of financial New Year's resolutions, you know what most of them have to do with? Debt. Well, first of all, it starts with creating a budget because they don't know where their money's going. But number two, pay off a credit card, pay down my credit card, build healthier credit, really understand what it is, and then decide, okay, what's the most important goal? How can I make a 1% change? So maybe it's saving 1% of your income. I know that sounds absurd. 1% of your income every single month to pay down more of that debt.
Yep.
Right? 1% towards building that emergency fund. 1% towards funding that college savings plan for your kiddos that are there. And you're going, geez, in 15 years, how am I going to afford this crazy thing called college? Now, the other second part of this is you then have to check in with yourself and then try to go up by 1% more, right? So if you do that 401k or the retirement plan thing you mentioned, Jill, and you go from 5% to 6%, schedule a money date with yourself in 6 months or 12 months and go, can I get from 6% to 7%? That consistent evolution, small incremental changes to your financial lifestyle really will pay off over time. I can't promise many things as an advisor, but I promise you if you take those small steps, the 1% pledge worked for me, Jill. It got me to the point where I was saving 15% of my income in my early 30s. Because when I started at 1% and went to 2. I couldn't save 15 or 20% overnight, but I could go from 1 to 2 or 5 to 6 or 10 to 11.
Well, thanks so much to Brent Weiss of Facet Wealth. First of all, thanks for being our sponsor for the year, but also thanks for joining us and explaining what was going on. As always, we would like to remind you, if you've got a financial question, send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Do not forget to wash your hands, to wear your masks, to maintain your physical distancing, and to do something nice for someone else today. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening.